All right, let's set the scene. Picture this. It's 1947, a dark, rainy night in Hollywood. The kind of night where all that Tinseltown glamour just kind of melts away. And it's on this night that we get a chance encounter between two people from completely different worlds. An encounter that ends up sparking this incredible lesson in survival and independence.
So in one corner, you've got Rita Hayworth. I mean, she's a Hollywood legend, a global icon, right? But tonight, she's just soaked from the rain and clearly deeply unhappy. And in the other corner, you have George. He's a studio driver, a regular, down-to-earth working guy who's been sent to pick her up. The movie star and the driver. Their lives are about to connect in a way that, trust me, neither of them saw coming. So first, let's talk about Rita's world. I mean, from the outside, it looks like she has everything you could possibly dream of. But behind the curtain, she is trapped in what you can only call a gilded cage. She's facing this really profound crisis, both personally and professionally. And you can really hear the pain in her own words right here. She feels completely swallowed up by her husband, the brilliant, but let's be honest, controlling Orson Welles. Think about that. She was already Rita Hayworth, a huge star, but she feels like she's been reshaped, molded into just being his wife. Her own identity? Gone. And it wasn't just at home. Professionally, she was so frustrated. She felt like she was just this beautiful object whose only job was to smile for the camera and not have an opinion. The studios, even Orson, they wanted the silent, smiling star. But inside, she had her own ideas, her own creative spark, and absolutely no one was listening. So this puts Rita at this massive crossroads. I mean, what does she do? Does she risk everything and divorce one of the most powerful men in Hollywood? Does she take an even bigger risk and start her own production company so she can finally have some creative control? The stakes here are just unbelievably high, and she feels like she's completely drowning. And then, the conversation in that car, it just takes this wild turn. We pivot completely, away from the glitz and pressure of Hollywood, and straight into the grit and reality of the battlefield, as George starts to share a little piece of his own life. Yeah, it turns out George is no ordinary driver. This guy is a two-war veteran. He actually lied about his age to get into World War I and then got drafted into World War II when he was 39 years old. His life experience is a universe away from Rita's, and it's a story from the night before D-Day that's about to change her entire perspective. So George sets the scene. It's June 5th, 1944. He and his buddies are about to storm the beaches of Normandy. But they have this immediate life-or-death problem. Their gear is so incredibly heavy that if it gets soaked, it'll drag them straight to the bottom of the English Channel. They could literally drown before they even fire a single shot. So, what does George do? He gets resourceful. He looks around and sees a pile of discarded, empty oil cans. Now, anyone else would just see trash. But George, he sees a solution. In this moment of just pure, simple genius, he cuts his heavy wool blanket in half, sews the empty cans inside, and boom, he's just created his own personal flotation device. And sure enough, his landing craft hits a rock and drops the ramp way too early in water that's over their heads. And his little invention? It works. As he watches many of his fellow soldiers sink under the crushing weight of their own gear, George floats. His ingenuity, his ability to think outside the box in a crisis, it literally saved his life. And you gotta love how he talks about it. He doesn't call himself a hero. He just humbly says he was cutting corners. But for him, that wasn't about being lazy. It was about being smart. It was about survival. It was a way of thinking that turned a deadly situation into his salvation. And this right here is the moment where everything just clicks. These two completely separate worlds, a bloody beach in France and a lonely car on a rainy night in Hollywood, they suddenly slam together. George's story becomes this incredibly powerful metaphor. So you might be thinking, how does this even apply? I mean, a soldier facing enemy fire versus a movie star facing public opinion. They seem like they're galaxies apart. But when you get down to it, they're both feeling the exact same thing. Like they're in way over their heads, being weighed down, and about to go under. And this is the line George delivers that changes everything for Rita. He takes his very real, literal life-saving act and turns it into this piece of universal wisdom. It's about taking a chance. It's about using whatever you've got to create your own way to stay afloat. So let's break this down. What is the oil can metaphor really about? Well, the oil cans are a symbol, right? They represent any resource you can find, an unconventional idea, a forgotten skill, maybe even just the support of another person that you can use to pull yourself out of a bad situation. It's about looking at the junk in your life and seeing its potential to save you.
For Rita, hearing this story is like a lightning bolt. George's metaphor gives her exactly the clarity and the courage she's been so desperately searching for. It's time for her to find her own oil cans.
And she doesn't just think about it, she acts. Inspired by George, she makes the call. She decides she's going to found her own production company, the Beckworth Corporation, so she can finally take control of her own career, her own story, her own destiny. This is her giant leap. And she realizes that her oil cans, they aren't just ideas, they're people. She knows she needs to cut ties with all that negativity weighing her down and start building a real team, a support system. And the very first person she asks to be on that team, it's George, the man who gave her the key. It's this incredible moment where she looks at him and says it outright, that he, the studio driver she met just hours ago, could be the oil cans that keep her afloat. It's just this profound recognition that sometimes the support you need to survive comes from the most unexpected places imaginable. So, what's the big takeaway from this rainy night in Hollywood? Well, it's that true survival isn't just about gritting your teeth and enduring. It's about creative thinking. It's knowing that our oil cans, our saviors, can be a bold idea, a big choice, or sometimes just a person who really listens. And it's a reminder that we all have the power to stop drowning and start building our own way to float. Which really leaves us with one final powerful question to ask ourselves. When you feel like you're being weighed down, when the circumstances feel overwhelming and you think you might go under, what are your oil cans?